Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I am dealing with a couple of kids fighting this afternoon. I just had my 14-year-old, I asked him to throw some chicken fingers in the oven for my 8-year-old. He likes chicken fingers with ketchup. And then I go in there, and my 8-year-old says that his brother cooked him the chicken fingers, and then he ate the chicken fingers, and then his 14-year-old brother informs him that he licked one of the chicken fingers on both sides. So I told the 14-year-old, said, here's what's going to happen. When we eat tonight, I'm going to let your 8-year-old brother lick your food on both sides, and then you're going to have to eat it so that you can feel what it's like. And that's how we do things around the digital asset investor's household. All right. First thing you need to know is that the Dow sinks more than 900 points for the worst drop since June, and rising virus cases globally. Now, I am not saying that this virus has been politicized, but what I am saying is that all of a sudden, right before an election, everybody starts going back into lockdown, and go figure. Justin Macron imposes nationwide lockdown in France, okay? Now, all of a sudden, we just happen to be a few ways from an election, and all of a sudden, the world's coming to an end again. Go figure. There's all kinds of, man, look, I'm not saying that this has been politicized, but I am. I mean, we don't know. I don't think we ever know. In fact, when I was in college, I can't remember the exact way that my professor explained it, but I remember one explanation from an economics professor where he was talking about how the presidents that are outgoing presidents could do certain things economically to make sure that the markets looked a certain way leading up to an election. And there is no telling what kind of political tricks on both sides of the aisle are pulled during every election. And you know that things are going on now. Okay, but look, and here's this one. This is breaking. Germany to go into lockdown from November 2nd, right before the election. German stock market DAX down 4%. Okay, then we have this. Jonathan D sent me this. And by the way, I'm not in any way saying that I think those two countries are going into lockdown. I just think that this, especially this election year, but I think all election years are crazy, and all kinds of crazy things happen leading up to them. If the truth were known, probably you and I would be shocked at some of the tricks that are pulled politically and by all kinds of people and countries and everything else in election years, but who knows? Coinbase. Now, this is crazy right here, unless Coinbase is listening to me, because this morning, I've never done this, but this morning I was asking my audience, I said, someone find me, I'm looking, I want a credit card. I want a credit card where I can, a Visa, okay, where I can use it with my business, buy things. And when I buy things, I get points back in crypto. In other words, I get Bitcoin, and I don't want cash back. I want Bitcoin or crypto, preferably XRP, when I buy things. Now that is what I wanted. Well, I threw that out to my audience, and literally after I posted that video, Coinbase puts this up. Crypto Meet Coinbase card now in the U.S. And that's one of the things I said specifically in my video, is that it's got to work in the U.S. I need a U.S. Visa. Crypto Meet Coinbase card now in the U.S. You can spend the crypto in your Coinbase account everywhere. Visa debit cards are accepted and earn up to 4% back in crypto rewards. Terms apply. Join the wait list today. And here's the site. And by the way, I've put a link to this site at the in the description of this video. You can click on it and go put yourself on the waiting list. It takes you right to this this page. Introducing Coinbase card, and then it goes down and it tells you spend crypto. You can spend crypto everywhere Visa debit cards are accepted. Earn up to 4% back in rewards whenever you make a purchase. No annual fee, phone and email support. So I'm excited about that, and I'm going to sign up for this card myself today. Michelle Vandenberg sent me this. Bitwise news. We recently crossed $100 million in assets under management. We feel grateful to the financial advisors, hedge funds, family offices, institutions, and individuals who have entrusted us with their capital and partnership. Great things ahead. All right. And then we have this. This is Ripple has lost another person on their team. And it's interesting because we don't ever get a lot of these. We don't ever get announcements like so-and-so left. They're going somewhere else. We don't ever get this stuff. Well, now it's Michelle Bond, who my understanding was that she worked out of the Washington, D.C. office. She was in charge of the regulatory affairs, as I recall. I look forward to leading digital asset markets. This is Association for Digital Asset Markets. As CEO at such an exciting time for the industry, in addition to focusing on cutting-edge policy issues with our members. All right, so there was that. And then she says, thank you so much, Hester Pierce. Now, that's Crypto Mom, not to be confused with Crypto Granny that I talked about the other day. We are absolutely thrilled to work with you and SEC News on these important regulatory issues. And Hester Pierce, who is at the SEC, is congratulating her. Now, the interesting thing about this is that recently Ripple has been complaining about how they just can't get regulatory clarity from the SEC. Hester Pierce is one of the people at the SEC. And now Michelle Bond has left and Hester Pierce is congratulating her. So we know that they've been talking to people at the SEC because they know them. So this isn't some crazy thing of Ripple just can't get a conversation going with the SEC. If Michelle Bond knows the people at the SEC, you better believe that Ripple's been talking to them for a long time. That's why I've been saying I just don't buy all this. Okay, this guy posted this, and I wanted to show you this tweet right here from Godfrey Bloom. He says a new world monetary order is coming. I wanted to remind you of who Godfrey Bloom is. This classic right here is worth watching 1,000 times, so I'll play it again.
Mr. Bloom has 2 minutes.
Commissioner, Mr. President, I rise again, I'm afraid, to make the same old hoary speech that I've been making here for several years, and that is, it is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
Man, does that guy, he deserves some kind of an award for that speech. Okay, but anyway, he tweeted this today, a new world monetary order is coming. And this is the article. New World Monetary Order is coming. The global current events has accelerated several troubling trends already in force. Among them are exponential debt growth, rising this. Central bankers now appear poised to embark on their biggest power play ever. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, and we talked about this IMF meeting. The globalist IMF recently called the new Bretton Woods moment to address the loss of trillions of dollars in global economic output due to the current events. In the aftermath of World War II, the original Bretton Woods Agreement established a world monetary order with the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. Importantly, the dollar was to be pegged to the price of gold. Foreign governments and central banks could also redeem their dollar reserves in gold, and they started doing so in earnest in the 1960s and 70s. 71, President Richard Nixon closed the gold window, effectively ushering in a new world monetary order based solely on the full faith and credit of the United States. An inflation crisis followed a few years later. So these people have not been happy about it ever since, and now he's talking about how we get to this. This is the most interesting line out of this. He's talking about how Jerome Powell met with these guys, and then it says, the next frontier of the Fed's unlimited mandate could be, quote, Fedcoin, a central bank digital currency. Earlier this month, Chairman Powell participated in an IMF panel on international payments and digital currencies. He touted electronic payment systems and raised the possibility of integrating them into a central bank digital currency regime. Now, when I hear the word Fedcoin, it reminds me of this. This is a paper that was written called by R3, Fedcoin, a central bank issued cryptocurrency. This was done back in, I believe it was, November 15th, 2016. Let me draw your attention to page 6. An alternative way to create Fedcoin would be to pre-allocate the entire supply of tokens, say 100 trillion Fedcoin. This block would immediately be awarded to the central bank to be held in reserve until they are required. Ripple set the precedent for 100% pre-allocation. At its inception, the entire 100 billion supply of XRP, Ripple's native token, was created outright, much of it retained by Ripple Labs, while the rest was auctioned off or given away. As a reduction in the supply, the central bank can store surplus crypto coins in its vaults, much as it does with deposited banknotes that are still fit for a second go-round. Pre-allocating simplifies security requirements as no one has the ability to issue Fed coins. However, it is exceedingly difficult to change supply later if the demand is underestimated. A new coin, say Fedcoin 2.0, would have to be issued in order to complement the exhausted supply of Fedcoin 1.0. Keep your eyes on Ripple and keep your eyes on Stellar, folks. That's all I got to say. All right. Now, David Schwartz put this out today. XRPL was designed to be fundamentally different from other public blockchains, and for good reason. This is an article that he put out. Now, most of this is mumbo jumbo to you and me. There will be a handful of people in the XRP arena that totally get all this language. Not me. I'm not one of them. So I'm going to break it down in the simple way. I went and found the part where David Schwartz addresses people that are not techies, but we want to know the surface stuff. But I was going to go through a couple things he said here. Proof of work mechanisms are transactionally focused, complex, and not designed to evolve. A consensus validation system like XRPL better ensures the ledger can make safe forward progress. And then he goes on talking about all this different stuff. Then he says, pending public testing, we could see negative UNL functionality introduced for review in the XRPL2 release. And he says, but it's ultimately up to the community to ensure the network continues forward progress in both senses. And then this is the part that's important to you and me. It's a new, he was answering somebody's question. He says, it's a new version of the software with improved performance features and reliability. It's not a new digital asset. XRP will still be XRP. And that's what you and I wanted to know. So I hope, I don't know all the ins and outs of what he was talking about, and that'll unfold in some clearer language for you and me. XRP Crypto Quebec put this out. The Fed is running out of money. Don't forget, they're still transferring that $80 trillion of $200 trillion in bank contracts from LIBOR USD to SOFR. The Fed has guaranteed to cover any percentage losses due to those transfers also. As Washington delays stimulus, the Fed is running out of ways to help the economy. Federal Reserve, again, has been relied on as the economy's key support system. As Washington debates more fiscal help, they just don't have much room to maneuver. Didn't we all know that this day would come? What they have left is really on margin. They just don't have much room to maneuver with regard to monetary policy. I don't really see what more they can do. That's why they've been so explicit in telling fiscal policymakers to do more, because they know they can't help. And I think you get the picture here, folks. These people, I mean, who couldn't have predicted this, that this is where this all ends? Okay. I saw this today from CNN. Boeing expects to get down to about 130,000 jobs by the end of the year, which would mean an additional 7,000 job cuts in addition to the natural attrition at the company throughout the year. Now, I keep telling you all in the description of all of my videos, there's a link to iTrustCapital. If you're someone who's being laid off from a company like this, where you have a 401k, you can roll it into an iTrustCapital IRA. I opened a Roth IRA from scratch with that. No, I actually rolled some of my old Roth IRA into it, but you can open one from scratch if you aren't rolling anything. But if you're rolling from a 401k or another retirement plan with your company, it's the way to go. There's a 1 month free in the description. Now, iTrustCapital today put this out about the Flare token distribution. This is something everybody needs to know. They started out and they lay it out right here for you. While having spent the last few months in direct communication with the Flare team and our institutional wallet provider, Curve, we regret to inform clients that we will not be able to support the Flare token distribution event. And then down here is what's important to me. It's important to note we were the first and nearly only institution to request Curve support for the distribution event. It appears that institutional demand for this token distribution event is minimal and is mostly driven from retail speculation due to an excellent marketing effort by Flare and the XRP community. Now, I read this to say, folks, that there is no institutional demand for this Flare token drop. Now, for myself, I have not done anything to get ready for the Flare drop because the jury has been out for me. I am not too keen on moving my XRP anywhere to be ready for a Flare drop, to be quite honest, because even if it comes out, the chances of it coming out at anything below pennies, I just don't think are very likely, in which case I should be able to go somewhere and buy some of it without having to move my XRP. Now, this is an interesting part of this. It says Flare is rough, and I don't understand some of this language, but maybe you do. Flare is roughly 87th EVM compatible blockchain to launch within the last few years. There have been nearly 0 EVM based blockchains that have received any meaningful adoption and developer support outside of Ethereum, which was the inventor of the Ethereum virtual machine. For comparable valuation understanding, internal analysts predict Flare to trade at similar valuations as other EVM solutions, which historically trade around 25M to 100M market capitalization valuation. If this analysis stands true, that means a client holding $10,000 of XRP would receive around $10 to $50 worth of Flare tokens. This translates to less than 1% of value received. It says, so anyway, the bottom line is, in my opinion, and I think that's what this article is getting to, is I'm in no way am I upset that in my Roth IRA, my XRP that's there is not going to get the Flare drop, because the tax benefits of my XRP being in that Roth IRA, if and when I ever sell, far, far, far outweigh anything that's going to be dropped into that account as a result of a Flare drop. I can promise you that, because this thing, I mean, who knows what the price will be, but even if it was at 10 cents, No way. It's not. I'd rather have the tax deferred status or the tax free status in my Roth IRA case. So those are my thoughts on that. I haven't decided yet if I do participate in the FLIR thing at all. It's going to be maybe half of what I have, if that. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. But they don't take a snapshot of these accounts until December the 12th, I believe. So I'm not worried about it at all right now. So those are just my thoughts. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that iTrustCapital is not, just so you know, iTrustCapital, the accounts will not be supporting the FLIR token drop. Thank you for listening.
Every day, billions of people around the world are mocked, ridiculed, laughed at, and embarrassed by their friends, family, and even strangers. These people go through their days knowing there are secrets being kept from them. They hear the faint whispers behind closed doors. The information and knowledge is held very close and only shared with others who were fortunate enough to find out. Feeling lost, rejected, and ostracized, these people give up, never finding out what digital assets the digital asset investor holds. But there is hope. Join the free Digital Asset Investor email newsletter and find out what digital assets he owns each month, including investments he's considering. Click the link in the description of this video or go to digitalassetinvestornewsletter.com. Put an end to your days of gloom and depression. Join the greatest free digital asset email newsletter ever created.